Welcome to Solo Storytime. Today we're going to be reading a book called Father's Boots. This book is written and illustrated by Baje Whitethorne Sr., who is Diné from the Navajo Nation. I look forward to reading this book with you all today. Now let's get ready for story time. Father's Boots. Early one winter morning, as the sun rose slowly, there were three young brothers who lived in two different hogans. One hogan belonged to their mother, with whom they lived, and the other was their grandmother's. They would go to their grandmother's hogan for holiday celebrations and to chop wood for her so she would stay warm. Here's one hogan, and here's the second one. The boys didn't like to go to grandmother's hogan because she told long, boring stories, especially late at night while the three boys tried to sleep. The mother of these boys saw that each one had a very different personality. The eldest, tall Leo, was very good at remembering things, but still found his grandmother's stories long and boring. The middle brother, big Leonardo, had the ability to think. He took things seriously, but agreed with his older brother about grandmother's stories. The youngest, little Leonard, was a go-getter, and he saw meaning and value in grandmother's stories, but even he still thought they were boring. On this cold winter morning, the boy's mother, Malin, called to her eldest boy. She said, "Please, tall Leo, my son, could you start a fire and put some water on for coffee?" The boys were warm under their blankets. The younger brothers pushed the eldest brother to get up. "They're all awake and talking," tall Leo said to himself. "Didn't I bring in some wood and water last night? It's your turn, little Leonard." Big Leonardo overheard him and said, "I don't know if you brought in wood and water last night." Little Leonard said, "Get up. I already did it last night. It's your turn." With a sigh, they all got up from their beds, including Mother. The breakfast smelled good, and Grandma Sally came over for her coffee while the boys got ready for school. Malin reminded her sons that they were staying at Grandma Sally's after school. The brothers looked at one another and thought, "Oh, long, boring stories again." As they ran to the bus, tall Leo mentioned that they would probably hear a prayer for creation that afternoon from Grandma Sally. Boring. The other brothers agreed wholeheartedly. The brothers saw the hole in the fence, a shortcut to the bus stop. They went through the fence just in time to catch the bus. On the way to school, little Leonard mentioned how he had asked for a blessing earlier in the morning, before dawn. Tall Leo wanted to know how he did it. "Wasn't it cold?" he asked. Little Leonard said, "Yes, it was very cold, but I really needed to do it. Father has been gone for weeks. Mother showed me the white and yellow cornmeal a few days ago, and that's when I decided to ask for a blessing. I asked our father to return home from work so that he could be with us during Christmas. See, here's some of the yellow cornmeal that I am going to use this evening after father returns home safely." The boy's father, Big Leonard, worked for the railroad. When he came home, he always took his boots off just outside the door and left them there overnight. This was how Malin and her sons knew that he was home. The brothers talked about Grandma Sally's stories all the way to school. They were surprised that they knew the stories so well. At the front door of their school, their teacher, Mr. Hat, stood tall. He quickly directed the students to form a line for morning snacks. The boys stood in line behind one another and waited in front of Mr. Hat. As they shuffled along the line, tall Leo said, "Remember last Christmas Eve? when we stayed in the other hogan and Grandma Sally told us about the holy people? Big Leonard was thinking about what his brother had said. Yeah, I know how grandmother told that story. It was like this, I think. Long, 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 long ago, when the holy people created the earth from the center of the universe, they said, we have created a perfect world. The firstborn in this world were a bear cub and an eaglet. The Holy Ones saw a need for 5-fingered individuals. The other brothers also knew this story. They said, yeah, we remember what she told us, and it was great. Then little Leonard took a turn telling the story. There was no one to enjoy their creation, and there's no one to harvest the fruits of this world. There were no 5-fingered individuals in this world. So the holy people made first man and first woman. Tall Leo always found Grandma Sally's stories boring because he had heard them so many times before. Now that his younger brothers were being told these stories as well, he realized that his brothers had really taken an interest, even though they all still agreed that the stories were boring. Tall Leo began. In Grandma's story, she talks about how, if a person were in need of something, all he had to do was ask and it would be granted. The holy people told the 5-fingered individuals how to ask for what was needed. Big Leonardo looked up at his older brother and said, yes, I know how grandmother began her story. She said, east, there, beneath the sunrise, where the sun actually rises, live the holy ones. Here, Mother Earth is a white cornmeal for this day. I ask for a blessing and beauty all around. Little Leonard filled with pride as he also knew this part, and he added, and next she says, I pray to Blanca Peak, then White Shell Woman, and then Spring, then the firstborn, and then first man and first woman. Then she would always say, with all of this, I ask for my blessing. This is where our thinking begins, and with all of this, we feel good, happy, and thankful. Ring, ring, ring. The first recess bell of the day started to ring. As he walked outside, little Leonard found some dirty candy in his pocket, and he shared it with his brothers and friends. Tall Leo and Big Leonardo saw the candy in little Leonard's hands and asked, are they still good? They look like they've been in your pocket for quite some time. Little Leonard answered, they have, but just since last week. I forgot all about them until I found them again in my jacket. They were all the way in the bottom of my pocket. He popped one into his mouth. But they're still good. Mmm. While cleaning their candy, Big Leonardo asked, what else did grandmother say in her story? Let me see here, said Tall Leo with a smile. Sky, dark universe, moon beauty, again I pray. Let me see here, said Tall Leo with a smile. Sky, dark universe, moon beauty, again I pray. Water, fire, vegetation, the 4 seasons, the 4-legged creature, the flying ones with wings. As he said this, Tall Leo thought to himself, I know this story by heart and understand it. It is really interesting. He continued, with all of this, I feel good, happy, and thankful. With all of this, I ask my family to have good thoughts, good feelings, to get along, and to have happy words for one another. Tall Leo stopped and hesitated. Little Leonard jumped in. This is where she addresses her ancestors. My grandparents from my mother's side. With this, I feel good, happy, and thankful. My mother's parents, my mother and her siblings. Then all the great grandchildren, my father and his parents and his siblings, my eldest brother, then all the other brothers and the ones younger than I. all the wives, children, and grandchildren. Then grandmother says, with all of this, I feel good, happy, and thankful. The youngest brother stopped. Big Leonardo helped out, continuing, oh, I remember this part when grandmother would say, may what goals they have in their lives, friends, education, jobs, and family come true. With this I pray and say, my holy ones, please grant my needs and blessings today. I kneel before you, facing east. Ring! The bell rang, interrupting the brothers right in the middle of their story. The first recess was over, and the boys were still standing outside. Mr. Hat stood in the doorway and yelled, you boys better get back to class. You can finish whatever you are talking about at lunchtime. Later, while finishing some schoolwork in class, Tall Leo realized the true importance and value of Grandma Sally's story. He was reminded of a poem about clouds, which he tried to remember so that he could share it with his younger brothers. Ring! The bell sounded 3 times for lunch. The brothers all gathered at their usual spot in the cafeteria, but before they started eating their food, they decided to finish Grandmother's story. Tall Leo hurried to eat a little bit and said, just before the lunch bell rang, I remembered a story Grandma Sally told me about clouds. The story is like a poem, and its meaning is also important, just like our story. Both Big Leonardo and Little Leonard expressed interest at the same time. Well, tell us, how does this poem go? Tall Leo paused to eat some of his lunch and then noticed that all the kids eating at their lunch table were listening to his story. He swallowed his food and commented, please, my holy ones, may you bless me with rain for my crops, with animals, vegetation for food, beauty, the 4 directions, 4 balanced seasons, the winds, all life, from the center of the earth to the top, and to the darkness of the universe to the heavens. The eldest brother put his hands to his chin and closed his eyes. He said, a single cloud forms in the sky. This cloud would cry. Tears fall to Mother Earth's crust. With this drop of tear, she is blessed, moistened, and nourished. As Tall Leo finished his poem, the younger brothers noticed that their elder brother was really enjoying retelling Grandma Sally's stories. They were surprised by his seriousness and willingness to share his knowledge. So, they decided to let him finish his story. They were now ready to listen and learn more of Grandma Sally's stories. The story really became Tall Leo's because he knew it so well. Big Leonardo asked, hey, big brother, can you finish telling your story? Little Leonard chimed in, yeah, finish it, because we're usually asleep when Grandma Sally gets to this part. Tall Leo agreed and continued, the last part goes like this. White cornmeal is here, my hands to give, your nourishment, it is holy ones. With this, my body feels good from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. I'm thankful with this, I have good thoughts all around me. Tall Leo agreed and continued, the last part goes like this. White cornmeal is here, my hands to give. Your nourishment it is, holy ones. With this, my body feels good, from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. I'm thankful. With this, I have good thoughts all around me. With this, I may speak with good words for all around me, and I will express myself well. During afternoon classes, Tall Leo thought to himself, I'm pretty good at this storytelling, and it makes me feel good. Gather your art projects now, announced Mr. Hat. The boys gathered in the back of the room, but no one said a word. So Tall Leo started to finish his story. Grandma Sally would finish it like this, he thought. With this, I'm feeling good, happy, and very thankful. Everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. She said it 4 times, and I'm usually half asleep by this time in her story. She also has other stories that are just as long as this one. Tall Leo picked up his art project. That's all, you guys. The three brothers each thought about the story. They now knew that expressing their needs to the Holy Ones before dawn was very important. As the day drew to a close, they were reminded of little Leonard's need to see their father return home for Christmas. This was an exciting day for all the brothers. Ring! That's the final bell, their teacher said. Clean up anything around your desks and throw away your trash. Be sure not to forget your homework and artwork to show to your parents. Have a very good Christmas and a Happy New Year. All of the students headed for their buses, jumping with joy and yelling, "Happy holidays!" to one another. These holidays were to be spent at home with their families. The three brothers boarded their bus for home. On the way, they talked about spending the night at Grandma Sally's hogan and what news story she would have for them. This time, they would be sure to stay up and listen to her long, long story. Grandma Sally still told long stories, but they were not boring to any of the brothers anymore. As tall Leo sat looking down the road, he said to his brothers, "Remember to bring some wood and water in for Mother and Grandmother tonight as soon as we get home. Hey, I see the hole in the fence." The three brothers could all see the hole in the fence, and as the bus neared, it drew to a stop in front of it. They all knew they were close to home and smiled. Just before the bus slowed to a stop, Big Leonardo said, "Don't forget the yellow cornmeal to give thanks." Little Leonard told him, "Fine, but let's see if Dad is home first. Then I'll give thanks for the blessings we received." The bus stopped and the boys hopped off and ran through the hole in the fence. They raced toward their hogan, and as they reached the top of the hill, they saw something outside the hogan. What do you think they saw? They came upon a new pair of boots sitting outside the door. They were Father's boots. The end. Thank you so much for reading Father's Boots with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you know when I'm going to read my next story. Have a beautiful day.